Hi everybody, today I'm back with a quick tutorial to show you how you can make an insert, a very plain and simple insert. I have designed this to fit a B6 because that's what I'm working with, but you could recreate this to fit your needs, whatever size insert you're using. So let's start off with a blank sheet. So we have the blank sheet here, and I'm not going to set my registration marks because I am going to just cut this myself with a paper trimmer and actually my Carl cutter. So let's go to here, start off with a new page. Make sure that your print line is set to borderless. So File, Print Page Setup. You need to make sure that you're formatting it for a specific printer. If the default is any printer, you will not have that option for US letter borderless. So select your printer and you'll see, oops, there. We have US letter art paper, US letter borderless. This is the one that we want, so we'll select that. Click OK, and that will take away the gray line for your print page. So let me show you the difference. You see this gray line? That is your print border. So if you keep this on, you're going to have to design everything within here. Again, borderless, and then we can start designing. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I know that my page needs to be 10 by 7 because I folded, my insert is going to be 5 inches by 7 inches. So I am going to select, or I'm going to change the page, rotate it to 270. That's just how I like to work with it. Okay, let me get rid of that. I start by just getting a draw rectangle. I'm just going to draw a rectangle any size. Keep it there. Remember to go back and click your pointer for the select tool. So I can select this rectangle. And I am going to change the color to blue so I don't forget. I don't want, well, it really won't matter because I'm not cutting this, but I like to keep consistent so when I do design something that will have a cut line, I'm not going to get confused. So let's go back and select the transform panel. Select scale, and now the width, I want it to be a 10 because, again, folded, my insert will be a 5 by 7. So input 10 and make sure you click enter. See how the box has changed now to 10 inches in width. And then the height, I know I want my insert to be a 7. And then click enter. Now I'm going to lock this so that it doesn't change my aspect ratio. There we go. And what I do is, I mean, you could keep it, you could center it on the page and then cut from each side. But what I like to do is I'm just going to pull it down to the bottom because I just want to make one cut and 2 cuts. But I want to know where the center is for this. So I'm going to go to draw a line here. And I'm just going to draw a line anywhere on here. Oops. Let's undo, because if you draw a line and hold shift at the same time, it'll draw a straight line. A new trick that I learned from one of the viewers in a comment. So I'm going to change that line again to blue. Oops, I need to be selected. See, it's good that you see my mistakes. Okay, now what I did was I selected this, which is going to be my divider to tell me where I can design where the middle line is. I'm going to select the box. I'm going to go back to my transform and click center. Now it's centering these two. I'm going to group them, and then I'm going to move this back down here. There. So I hope that makes sense. So now when I'm designing, and you can ignore this red cut line, actually, we can turn that off. Because I'm not using the silhouette to cut this, I'm going to turn that off. So actually, I'm going to flush this blue line, this edge of the blue box, to the edge of my paper. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, now you can start designing. So what I did in this insert is, do you see this grid paper? It's actually another layer. And I created it in Silhouette with just doing periods. So you can go online and maybe find like a grid paper or a graph paper generator. But for this, I didn't want to run into any commercial licensing issue or copyright issues. So I just created my own. It was fairly easy with just doing periods. It's the Courier font. So I just did periods, spaced them out, I think at, if you go to the font, I did the kerning. So for the character spacing, I believe I spaced it at a 425%. And then I just kept typing periods until it filled the whole sheet. And then I duplicated the rows and I used this vertical spacing to make sure that I got the spacing to be equally even. There's probably other ways to do this, easier ways maybe, but that was just easier and quicker for me. So what I did do is I did save this as a JPEG and a PDF, and you can get that. So if you go to Bluminate 808, it is a Facebook page. I created it so that I could do a screen share type of tutorial on Facebook and invite people for more silhouette tutorials. But here's the JPEG, and I would click on it, right click, and save image as. That's a JPEG. Here's a calendar, which I'll do a tutorial. Make sure you save this one as a PNG, and this one is a PDF. So let's work with the JPEG. So if you click on it, it's going to open up, right click, and click Save Image. And then you'll save it wherever you need to save it. And you can grab it from where you saved it in the downloads. I'm going to drag it, drop it in here. Do you see that? It's already in here. Okay, so now I'm going to, let's right click and send to the back. And if you want your dots to be smaller, I'm not sure what size this is at, but you can always just, you're going to have to play around with it, but at least you don't have to recreate the grid, but you can just play around with it. It doesn't need to fit over on it exactly. It's okay if there's overhang on here. So I'm just going to place it in here and just see where the dots are ending up, just where you might want it to be. I think this is going to be good enough for this. Okay, and then it's very easy. From there, we're going to go ahead and grab the icons that you want. So let's grab a girl. I'm going to throw her on the side. I'm going to have to rotate her later. And then let's get some icons. Now I used this one. Okay, so let's go to the papers. Let's find right there, that paper. Okay, so I'm going to select, squish it down, select her, select the envelope. Let's go to Object, Rotate. Rotate by 90 degrees. And now we can place her wherever we want her. Just be sure not to keep her too close to the edge or too close to the bottom. Depends on how you cut your inserts. Again, I am just going to cut it on the top. So I'm going to cut 1.5 inches from the top and then 1 inch from this side after I fold them. So let me go ahead, resize this. And the way that I made that washi strip like, so I'm just going to make a rectangle, and I'm going to make it about 1/2 inch. That's good enough. Okay, and actually I want that to be longer. Let's just select it. Okay, I want to change that to, I guess it would be okay to leave it as blue. I'm finding that my habit now for something like this that's inside a design that is not a cut line, it is a trace line, but I'm just changing it to gray. Then I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop a pattern paper into here, and you can then go to the fill, so the palette here, click on fill pattern. If we want to change the transparency to make it a little lighter, I'll leave it at there. If I want to make it a little larger, the heart's larger, I'm going to keep it back at 100%. And I need to pull this up a little bit. If I wanted to move the hearts, so we can leave it like that. Okay, and then I'm going to place my envelope on here, bring it to the front, resize it, and I can use this green dot here. I'm going to just kind of turn it. Okay, and you're literally done. So now you could go to File and print it one side. You can print 10 of them, feed it into your printer again and print this again, or create another design. Now if you want to know how I did this box, it's the same concept as this. I just filled it in white. So let's do another box. And these are not like Annie-Plan printable inserts. It's just very basic. I just wanted something that I could scribble down some notes over here, maybe doodle, and just something that would match my Valentine's Day stickers and planner. So make sure you select your arrow for the selection tool. Select, click off. Select the box. Again, I am using this gray line, and this gray box is not going to show up this way, so I would actually have to change the thickness. I'm going to change it to a 1 and enter, so that when I print, it actually will show up. I'm going to go back to the fill panel, and the fill color, I'm going to click white, bring her to the front, and there you go. Now, if you wanted some text in there, click text, type what you want, gratitude, and then you can highlight it. Let's change the fill color to black. Make sure you change your line color, whatever color you want. You could even select a color from her dress. Actually, that's what I'm going to do. Let's get this beautiful mauve color. To go back to our palette. There. Let's now change your font. Click on the right hand side. Open the text style panel. And I believe I used Sylvia or Priscilla. No, Priscilla. It was Priscilla. So I believe I used Priscilla. I have a lot of fonts in here. Priscilla script. Okay. And then I'm going to drag it and place it here. And you can size it with this here. You can size it there or drag it from one of the four corners. Oops. That's why I use my arrow keys. I tend to grab one thing. Okay. There. And it's that easy. Now you can have this pink, you can have it black, but that's it. That's how simple it is. You could change these lines if I wanted to. I mean, I can change that back to black. Let's see, let's change that to black. And if you wanted to do not just a solid, but maybe something like that, that might, I mean, it might be conflicting with the dots, but maybe if I move that up, there, that might be a little better. Now I'm going to take my arrow keys and kind of move this. Okay, what I realized after I printed this is that I gave you some wrong instructions, but we can take it from this step here and we can still fix it. So what I'm going to do is, because when I initially designed this, I initially designed it for a B6 Slim, which I had on a landscape, and I designed it in the bottom right hand corner so that I could just fold it in half, the 8.5 by 11, fold it in half, which would create a 4 1/4, and then I just cut 7 from the top. It'll make sense when you see the next part, the last part where I show you actually how I cut it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I want to move this paper off to the side. So after you move the paper off to the side, let's get rid of this for now. I'm going to click on here and ungroup. I want to bring this line down just in case it affects it. So this is just, remember, our crease. It just shows me where the middle will be. And I do know after I printed it that this is probably a little too close to here. So I'm just going to bring it in just a little bit. And these are probably a little too high. And you'll know, I mean, print one and try to print and cut it, and you'll see, I know that she's going to be too low and some of her shoes might get cut off. This is probably too high. Let's bring that down a little bit. I think that'll be good. Okay, so now let's group all of this again. So highlight, right click, group, and then I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to select this, click on the transform panel, and select this one, the one with the page and the centering tool in the middle. And that will take our box and all the contents into the middle of the page. You see that? Okay, now we can bring our grid paper back and just layer it on here. And I'm going to zoom in. Oh, yeah, the grid paper looks like it's in a, let's see, actually, maybe I'll go like this. Okay, now you can go ahead and print and cut, and I will show you next actually the printing and the cutting. Thank you. Okay, so for my printer, I have a Canon Pixma 7720. So when my paper comes out, it'll spit it out this way. So I'm going to lay my paper back down there with the pattern, the first page faced up. And it's going to, when it goes to the printer, it's going to curl it the other way. And then your second page will be on that side. So I'm going to show you, this is one where it originally, I lay it flat this way. Then it's going to run through it. So this is the first page. I'm going to lay it back down exactly how it came out. Then it's going to run through my printer. This is the second run, and you'll see here, that's how I get the front and back. I hope that makes sense. every printer will be different, but hopefully you'll be able to figure out how your printer works. Okay, the next step and the final step would be cutting down your inserts. So this one I still need to print the second page, second run on there. I have these are double-sided prints. I'm doing 3 sheets at a time, but with the Carl Cutter you can do more than that. I think maybe about 10 sheets I do. So I'm going to fold this in half, and you can either use a scoring tool to find the middle and score it. I do notice here that there is a little bit on that from the washi strip that I can fix when in Silhouette. I usually will print it, try it, tweak it again. So I'm going to try to refold it to see maybe I folded it not the best. I'm going to take my bone folder and just make the crease a little bit more defined. And I do see that it is there, and I probably will fix that in Silhouette after. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to have to cut it down. So this is a Carl Cutter. It's a heavy duty one. I purchased it off of Amazon. I will place the links down on the bottom. But the paper is now 8.5 and I need to cut it down to 7. So I'm going to cut the bottom portion to down to 7 3/4. So let's cut that, just the bottom portion, we're going to cut down 3/4 of an inch, so cut it down to 7 3/4. Okay, so in part of her feet cut off, I can adjust that in Silhouette also, but it won't really bother me. So I'm going to rotate it and then cut another 3/4 off, so that will bring it down to 7 inches. So lock the Carl Cutter and swipe it. I usually do 2 runs, sometimes 3 if I'm doing like 10 sheets, which folded would be 20. So now I want to cut this down, this side down to 5 inches. So I am cutting off 1/2 inch off. There we go. And then that's your insert. So I will round the corners and staple it. See how pretty? Okay, so I am using a We Are Memory Keepers corner chomper, and I'm going to round just the 2 outer edges, and I'm using the 1/4 side of the We Are Memory, 1/4 inch side. So let's round each side, and if you want to, you could round the other sides if you want to create like a valley for your inserts, and I find that helps if your insert is a little flimsy, like the photo page sticker inserts that I showed in a previous tutorial, or if you don't have a dashboard, but for this one I would put a cover or a dashboard on there. And the stapler that I'm using I purchased from Daiso. It is a round stapler, or around the stapler. It was $1.50 on at Daiso, but you can purchase it from eBay or Amazon at a much higher price. I will put some links down on the bottom. There you go. That's your insert. Easy peasy. It really is easy. So I hope this tutorial will help you create some basic inserts that you can use for note taking, list making. So I do plan to go back into Silhouette and adjust that washi strip that I have there that's coming over, and the girl, I want to raise her up a bit so I don't chop off her feet, and her skirt is a little too close, which somebody on Instagram pointed that out to me, so I'm going to move that in. But I hope this tutorial helped you guys. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back soon. Bye!